Welcome to the Lost and Found in the Philippines podcast. Get ready for a fun and wild ride as we explore finding love in the Philippines. Join your host as he shares his experience from 7 nearly month-long visits. He will cover what to know before you go and how to get prepared for your trip. You will also get some tips to help you think through what type of person you hope to meet and how to find them. Let's get ready to get lost and found in the Philippines. Here is your host, Trevor Williams.
Welcome back. We have another great show for you today. I want to thank again Lewis for being on and being an amazing guest. It was a great honor and privilege to have you with us last episode. First up, I'm going to discuss places to see and why you should see them. I must say there are so many things to do and it all depends how much time someone has. Even when I stay there for a full month, I never run out of things to do. Remember, there are over 7,000 islands, so the options are almost endless. One of my favorite places to go, as you might have guessed from previous episodes, is, yes, that's right, Boracay. I've never been to Hawaii, but from photos I've seen, that would be the closest I could say is comparable. The only difference is Hawaii is overpriced. Boracay is very affordable. You can find places to stay for around $50 a night at the cheapest. And usually I try to find the best deal, but usually end up spending more than I should when I visit there. But you only live once, right? First time I stayed was at Le Soleil de Boracay Hotel. I hope I'm pronouncing that. The room was 2 stories. You had 2 balconies. On the top balcony, you had a jacuzzi overlooking the pool. The only downfall was you had to notify the front desk roughly about an hour before you wanted to use it, so they could turn on what I'm assuming is the water heater, so you have enough hot water to fill it. Overall, the hotel was outstanding, and they had a pool, as I said. Cheapest room is around $80 a night. I think for the room I got, it was around $150 a night. It was on a package deal. The second time, I actually was on a better budget, and I can't remember the name of that place. I just know that it doesn't exist. The last time I was there, I tried to find it, and it wasn't there anymore. They didn't have a pool, and I think I paid maybe $60 a night, but we had a balcony that was ocean view, and we were just feet away from the beach. For the third time, I went back to my higher spending at Boracay Ocean Club. They had 2 luxurious pools. One was an infinity pool that was on the roof of the building, and that one had a pool bar. The room I got had a perfect ocean view. As you can tell, that it's preferably the room I always try to find. There was a 2-person jacuzzi on the balcony, and to where you could easily watch the sunset. That room ran me about $146. It was probably cheaper than that because I got it again on a package deal. My 4th trip there, I stayed at Calypso Beach and Dive Resort. A great place to stay if you love diving. They have excellent package deals for that. No jacuzzi for this stay, but yep, you guessed it, ocean view balcony. I didn't even have to get out of bed to see the sunset. That one ran me about $150 a night. Also, on the 4th trip, I stayed at a different hotel for the 2nd night, and that one was called Vila Sunset Boracay. It was not oceanfront, and it was definitely not my ideal place to stay, but I gave it a try and realized it's a 5-minute walk to get to the beach, which really isn't that far, and I stayed there for 2 nights. It was about $70 a night. Now on the 5th trip, I was supposed to stay at 2 different places again, but I ended up leaving a night earlier than I was planning. Heenan Palm Beach Resort was where I stayed this time around. It was a very luxurious resort. 2 extremely big pools, and the one on the roof, they had a sky pool, which was also an infinity pool, if I'm not mistaken. Nothing extreme for this go-around. Sadly, no ocean view. I ended up having a pool view. Staying there was about $150 a night. Now the last time I went to Boracay, my 6th time, I did stay at 2 places, and I remember this very well since it was just this year, this past February to be exact. I stayed at Boracay Uptown Hotel, which is now one of my favorites. I had an ocean view room as well as a jacuzzi in the living room that overlooked the water, and that was incredible, and I will be staying there again. So relaxing. It was around $130 a night. The next 2 nights I stayed at Heenan Regency Resort and Spa. This place had 4 pools, and I got a package deal, as always, that included buffet breakfast, buffet lunch, and buffet dinner. My friend and I had ate at one of those buffets the first night we were there when I stayed at Boracay Uptown, and it was so delicious, but about the same as you would pay here in the United States for a buffet. I think nightly at that resort, it's normally anywhere from $70 a night for the cheapest room. I think with everything I got in the package, it came out to being around the norm for me of $150 a night. There are resorts in Boracay, such as Shangri-La, to where it can run you around $500 a night for the cheapest room. It is insane. That's my experience when it comes to Boracay. Also, I want to point out, on my first trip there, I got to do parasailing, which was so breathtaking. I had gotten it in a package, so I didn't have to pay any extra. It's so mesmerizing being up in the sky right off the coast of a paradise island. The next place I've never been, but I've always wanted to go. It's called Vila Escudero Plantations and Resort in San Pablo City. They have a waterfall restaurant, approximately a little over 58 miles from Makati. I've looked at photos and videos of it, and it looks absolutely crazy. The tables of the restaurant are at the base of the waterfalls, so while you're eating, you would have that rushing water hitting your feet. Like I said, I've always wanted to go, but have never wanted to pay for someone to drive me 2 hours and find a way back to Makati. Usually I'm too busy in the first place. I don't really mind the fact of being in a car for 2 hours, because that's a normal thing in Manila. If you just want to go to the mall, you could be sitting in traffic for that long. And it's maybe only 10-15 miles to go to a mall. For being a third world country, they have numerous malls, and some of these malls you wouldn't believe. But I will have to go over shopping in a future episode. But anyway, continuing on. The next place I would recommend going to see would be the tarsiers, the world's smallest primates, about the size of your finger. The tarsiers are in Bohol. You would have to catch a plane to go there. Apparently when I was there at the Tarsier Conservatory, they told me they used to let people hold them. But one time a Korean kid squeezed one and killed it. So since then, they stopped letting people handle them. They are only able to be looked upon and observed. They can be very emotionally sensitive, and seriously have been known to commit suicide by banging their head into a tree until they're dead. Psychos. The tarsiers' eyes can't move. They can only turn their head to be able to look around, and they can almost turn their head 360 degrees. I remember watching a video on YouTube about them by fellow YouTuber Zefrank. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And he said, and I quote, "It disguises itself in the forest by pretending to be a small teddy bear undergoing a colonoscopy," end quote. I highly recommend watching Zefrank's videos. I find them very humorously informative. Other things you can see in Bohol is the chocolate hills. They are called that because during the dry months they can resemble Hershey Kisses sticking out of the ground. There are so many stories of how they were all created. There's one story about giants who were fighting each other and throwing boulders and became friends and left their mess, which is now called the Chocolate Hills. There are approximately 1,268 individual hills according to Wikipedia. Their heights range from 100 to 160 feet, though the highest is almost 400 feet high. The hills all almost look the same. Limestone covered with grass and change color to brown during the dry season. Another place I've recently came across is called Sunken Cemetery. According to amusingplanet.com, quote, Camigan is an island province of the Philippines located in the Bohol Sea, about 10 kilometers off the northern coast of Mindanao. The island of Camigan is of volcanic origin and composed of 4 young stratovolcanoes overlying older volcanic structures. These include Mount Vulcan and Mount Hibuk, still considered active, having last erupted in 1953. During the volcanic eruption of Mount Vulcan that lasted from 1871 to about 1875, after continuously spewing out lava into the sea, it gained a height of nearly 2,000 feet and submerged areas of Catarman, including the town's cemetery. Today, all that remains of Catarman are the ruins of an ancient Spanish San Roque church, a convent, and a bell tower. Remnants of the structures and gravestones of the cemetery were still seen during low tide until 1948, when Mount Vulcan erupted for the 4th time, which buried the area deeper by 20 feet. In 1982, a large cross was built on the solidified lava to mark this old grave site, end quote. I've been told if you go see it, you will get this feeling of extreme loneliness. When looking at the photos, I feel something very strong and can't quite grasp what or how I feel. Fantasy World, another place I came across, was to be the Philippines version of Disney World, but with a medieval times theme. During the period of construction, the people building it ran into financial trouble and were not able to complete it, so here is this halfway completed amusement park just sitting there being unused. You can still go see it for a fee, but nothing is running. It's so sad to see the photos of the rides and nothing ever got to be used for the purpose for which it was made. Looking at photos of this place, I would have definitely went on one of my trips over there. You enter the park by going through a gate, as if entering a castle. There are towers and it just looks so cool. Sad someone can't go ahead and buy up the land and finish construction. The location is about 50 miles from Makati and only 20 miles from Taal Volcano, or in other words, Tagaytay. Next, Japanese tunnels of Baguio are tunnels that were created during the invasion of the Philippines in 1941 during World War II. Another site, the Fire Mummies of the Philippines. I will have Wikipedia help me out on this one. Quote, are a group of mummies found along the mountain slopes of Cagayan, a town in the northern part of the Philippines. They were made from as early as 2000 BC until the 16th century when Spain colonized the Philippines. Today, they remain in natural caves and in a museum in Cagayan. What makes the fire mummies unique is their process of mummification. Mummification began shortly before a person died, when they would digest a very salty drink. After their death, the corpse was washed and set over a fire in a seated position, thus drying the fluid. Smoke from tobacco was blown into the mouth to dry the body's inside and internal organs. Eventually, herbs were rubbed into the body. Mummified bodies are then placed in a coffin made of pine wood and laid to rest in rock shelters, natural caves, or man-made burial niches. The practice of that mummification ended since Spaniards colonized the Philippines in the 16th century. The fire mummies remain in natural caves with relatively small security and have been designated as one of the 100 world's most endangered heritage sites. Officials know 50 to 80 other mummies, but they will not give their locations because of their fear of vandalism. A small museum in Cagayan, Benguet, also displays a few mummies. End quote. Next, Asik Falls are beautiful waterfalls down in the area of Mindanao. You would have to fly to Davao City and then take an almost 5-hour car or bus ride to the falls. They're very unique as the water comes out through cracks in the rock mountain itself. You could Google a photo of them to see what I'm talking about. absolutely breathtaking. Vulcan Point is an island in the middle of a lake that just so happens to be inside a volcano. It's one of the places I have actually seen. It's close to Tagaytay. That volcano being Tall Volcano. Tagaytay is a nice place to visit and see. They have a zip line that goes over the area and is absolutely stunning and so worth every penny. Recently they've been having volcanic activity. Earlier this year in January, Tall erupted, killing almost 39 people. That also caused the lake to dry up, so you can't really see that anymore. They used to have tours in a boat that would take you to the volcano island, and then you could choose to hike up or ride a horse. It's most likely unknown as of right now when the tours could start back up with everything that is currently going on. Hanging coffins of Sagada. According to Atlas Obscura, quote, the people of Sagada follow a unique burial ritual. The elderly carve their own coffins out of hollowed log. If they are too weak or ill, their families prepare their coffin instead. The dead are placed inside their coffins, sometimes breaking their bones in the process of fitting them in, and the coffins are brought to a cave for burial. Instead of being placed into the ground, the coffins are hung either inside the caves or on the face of the cliffs, near the hanging coffins of their ancestors. The Sagada people have been practicing such burials for over 2,000 years, and some of the coffins are well over a century old. Eventually the coffins deteriorate and fall from their precarious positions. The reasons the coffins were hung was due to the belief that the higher the dead were placed, the greater chance of their spirits reaching a higher nature in the afterlife. Many of the locations of the coffins are difficult to reach and obviously should be left alone out of respect, but can be appreciated from afar, end quote. And the last place I'm going to discuss, I know I've given you overload of information. Fort Drum. Fort Drum is a very interesting site located off of Cavite City. Sometime after the Spanish-American War, the U.S. felt it needed to make it look like we had more defenses in the Philippines by taking a small island known as El Fraile Island and making it a much bigger island to resemble that of a huge warship made out of reinforced concrete. And to add the finishing touch, they installed 2 giant gun batteries, but it was taken during the invasion from Japan until the U.S. retook Manila, and then they just ended up abandoning it after setting it on fire. It's time once again to tell you a personal story of one of my trips to the Philippines. This week I have decided that I am going to discuss my campaign I created that came to me while I was attending church service. The song Reckless Love, originally by Corey Asbury, was being sung, and the idea just popped into my head, and it felt as though in some way I was being given a task to complete. I respect whatever beliefs a person might have, and I am not going to force my beliefs onto them. When I arrived home, I started thinking about where I wanted to begin. First, I decided to start looking for miniature Bibles, and I ordered about 125 of them, as well as multiple different tracts. For those who do not know what a tract is, it is a small brief pamphlet discussing different topics. Next, I ordered around 125 religious gift bags. And once I received everything, I went to Walmart and got the non-perishable food items I was planning to include. The Christian gift bag showed the words "He lives" on each side, and every bag was going to include each of the following: 1 miniature version of the New Testament, 1 Christian coloring and activity book, 1 small pack of crayons, 1 small religious coloring book, 1 miniature religious fun and games booklet, 1 glow-in-the-dark cross necklace, 1 flashlight keychain that has the words "Jesus is the light and the way" was imprinted on it, 1 granola bar, a single pack of Pop-Tarts, breakfast bar, and a few other healthy snacks. As you might have known, the Philippines is a very religious country, mostly based on Catholic beliefs. Lastly, an assortment of life-saving literature to help guide them in the right direction. The next step I took was creating a website for what I was doing, and you can feel free to look up that site right now. I didn't end up doing as much as I was hoping for, but the domain is owned by me until January 2021, and then it will be deactivated. The website is www.GoodieBags4God.com. Goodie is spelled Goodie, bags, B-A-G-S, the number 4, and then God, G-O-D.com. Overall, I spent roughly over $500 on everything, including the website. It took almost 2 suitcases just to hold everything for the bags. That was the first time I took 3 checked bags to the Philippines. Once arriving in Manila, I headed to the condo and started filling over 100 bags. I would take a bundle of 10 to 15 bags at a time, and they would be folded and put inside my grocery bag I got from the local 7-Eleven in Makati, and just spent a few hours walking around the streets of Manila and passed them out to the little kids I came in contact with. I knew they would love the snacks and the flashlight and activity books. All in all, I ran out of bags that very first week I was there. Around 125 bags in a matter of just 3 to 4 days. Ultimately, GoodieBags4God was an idea that led me to the parable of the lost sheep. And with the parable of the lost sheep, it says, suppose one of you has 100 sheep and loses one of them. Doesn't he leave the 99 in the open country and go after the lost sheep until he finds it? And when he finds it, he joyfully puts it on his shoulders and goes home. Then he calls his friends and neighbors together and says, rejoice with me, I have found my lost sheep. I tell you that in the same way, there will be more rejoicing in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous persons who do not need to repent. One last thing before I close out the show. I know I said I would talk about it in a future episode, but I changed my mind. We're going to go ahead and talk about shopping. There are at least around 74 malls in the Philippines, and some of them would blow the average individual away. It did me. I want to help visualize the size of the country over there that I didn't do in my first episode. The Philippines, when compared to a U.S. state, the closest comparison would be California, but roughly 26% smaller. When comparing Manila, it would be a tad bit bigger than Chicago. But back to the shopping conversation. I was amazed how being a third world country would have some of the best kick-ass malls. One of the biggest malls is Mall of Asia, or MOA to the locals. The biggest mall would be SM City North EDSA. There are roughly 20 malls residing in Manila itself. My first time in the Philippines, I remember going to the mall and seeing how cheap stuff is when you're converting the currency from ours to theirs. Needless to say, I bought a lot of clothes that day. Really cheap. Mind you, out of the list of 25 top biggest malls in the world, Philippines has 6 out of those. Manila has 3 of them just itself, and they are SM City North EDSA, which is 5.36 million square feet. SM Mega Mall is 5.1 million square feet. And Mall of Asia is 4.65 million square feet. I want to talk a bit more about the Mall of Asia specifically. It opened in 2006. There's 4 buildings interconnected by walkways. The mall's parking capacity is about 8,000 parking spots. They have a 16-screen movie theater, a 19,000 square foot ice skating rink that can handle up to around 300 people. Aside from the convention center that held the 2011 G12 Summit, if anyone remembers that, they have the Mall of Asia Arena, which has 2 sections. One can handle 30,000 people, and the other can hold 80,000 people. This arena is where such talent as Celine Dion, Lady Gaga, including Taylor Swift and many, many others. Also, it's where they held the Miss Universe 2016 and quite a few other big events and concerts. Mall of Asia also offers a museum called the Galleon and are working on bringing a 699,654 square foot IKEA. They have over 700 stores, including 217 dining options. Over a total of 3 floors compared to SM City North EDSA that has over 800 stores and 300 dining options, up to 6 floors, and over 10,000 parking spaces. In closing, I want to ask you to please Google this last mall I'm going to tell you about. You need to see photos of this place. It's called Venice Grand Canal Mall. It is so awesome. I went and checked it out last July when I was over there. Really looks like Venice. You can ride on a gondola. It's so beautiful. Pretty much like a lot of places over there. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. The podcast will be going into hiatus for a while as I am having health issues and I am going to need surgery. I don't know how I'm going to feel after the surgery, but I will keep you updated with what's going on via the Lost and Found in the Philippines Facebook page. So, stay safe, stay healthy, God bless, and remember, it may be fun in Vegas, it might be fun in Hawaii, it could even be fun in Miami, but it will always be more fun in the Philippines.
Thanks for listening to Lost and Found in the Philippines. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss a single episode. If you like the show, leave a review and be sure to tell a friend. For even more, check out the Lost and Found in the Philippines YouTube channel.